requirement to attend this meeting can be found on the Town of Southborough's website, https://www.southboroughtown.com. For this meeting, members of the public who wish to listen to the meeting or participate in the public hearing may do so in the following manner. And that's the same website, southboroughtown.com/remote meetings. No person in attendance or members of the public will be permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings in real time via technological means. In the event we are unable to do so, despite best efforts, we will post on Southborough's website an audio or video recording, transcript, or other comprehensive record of proceedings as soon as possible after the meeting. I'll ask the town planner to give us an update on participation. Karina.
All right, so at the last planning board meeting on October 19th, Andrew Mills was absent, and it was the opening of the public hearings for 7 Chestnut Hill Road, or a continuation of 7 Chestnut Hill Road, the barn project, major site plan approval, as well as the opening of the public hearings for the Mooney baseball field lighting project and the Neary tennis court lighting project, both major site plan approvals. So I have 3 documents here where Andrew Mills is attesting that pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 39, Section 23D, the undersigned member of the Planning Board of the Town of Southborough hereby certifies that he has examined all of the evidence received by the Planning Board at the one session of his adjudicatory hearing on the matter, identified below, which the undersigned member failed to attend, and that such evidence included a video recording of the missed session or a transcript thereof. This certification has been executed prior to the undersigned participating in a vote on the matter and shall be part of the record of the hearing. The planning board member's name is Andrew Mills. The 3 public hearing subject matters again are Chestnut Hill Road Farm Barn, major site plan approval, Mooney baseball field lighting, major site plan approval, and Neary tennis court lighting, major site plan approval. The date of the missed sessions was October 19th, 2020, signed under the pains and penalties of perjury this 31st day of October 2020, signature Andrew Mills. And we have the 3 documents here that will be filed with the town clerk tomorrow.
Excellent, thank you.
Couldn't say it better myself. Thank you, Corinne.
Oh, it's easy to read. You're welcome.
Okay, we'll move on to the first item on the revised agenda, which is a discussion, the master plan committee update. Karina, Mimi?
All right, I'll defer to Mimi. I can say that they're moving along, and it's a big challenging task, but I think they're doing quite well. And Mimi, you can take it from there.
Thank you, Karina. We are moving along. Our last meeting was on October 21st, and we had a very productive meeting in which we compared all the 2008 master plan goals and recommendations against the goals and recommendations that we had proposed so far on the master plan update, just to make sure that we didn't miss anything, see if anything was still relevant or things that we definitely didn't want as goals removed. And we have completed that task. Our next meeting is on November 18th.
Excellent. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, we'll move on to the next item on the agenda. And thank you very much, Mrs. Luttrell. There's room on the town common for a statue of you after we get this new master plan. So the next item on the agenda is a public hearing, 7 Chestnut Hill Road, major site plan approval. This public hearing is continued from July 13th, August 10th, September 14th, September 28th, and October 19th. We'll turn this over to the town planner for a quick update, or do we go straight to Bob?
We can go straight to them. I just want to do one quick thing in that Conservation Commission met on October 22nd with the trustees for the project and the parking concerns that were there. And they are here this evening to give you a quick update on how that panned out and what their plan is moving forward. And with us is Bob Murray and D.A. Hayden with the trustees of reservations representing the Chestnut Hill Barn Project, and also their engineer Bert Corey with DGT Associates. And they are on the panel.
Good evening. And
Good
welcome
evening,
back.
everyone. Thank
Welcome
you.
back. Are you going to
Thank you,
start?
Don.
Are you going to start, DA?
Yeah, I just wanted to give just a quick overview. We had a very good meeting with the Conservation Commission, as Karina mentioned, and we are, I think, quite close to submitting everything for peer review. We're hoping to have all of that done actually by tomorrow to Fuss and O'Neill. And we thought just for a quick moment, we'd share with you highlights of what the plan is, because we know that you all have not had a chance to look at anything. So Bob and Bert, do you want to just share where we are, please?
Sure, I can do that.
Thanks, Bert.
Yeah, Sarah, can you turn this over so I can share my screen? Is that okay?
Yep, absolutely. Alrighty, you should be all set.
How's that? Can everybody see it?
Yes.
Perfect. All right, so I guess it boils down to, we stayed away from the trailhead parking area that was at the north side of the site. We've consolidated everything onto the farmstead exception to the conservation restrictions. So everything is now on the site. And what we've done is actually the barn area, the soil absorption system, all of the things associated with the septic system, they all remain the same. We still have a path going down to this gravel parking area. We did extend this gravel parking area, and you can see that it doesn't go over the exception line. We've got 25 parking spaces in this gravel area. And then we're also creating an opening. Let me just zoom in a little bit here. Creating a small opening in this area to kind of range right back into this gravel driveway. It's an existing gravel drive now. That will allow some parking on this grass area that would be adjacent to the plowed fields. And we're proposing 7 spaces that would just be on the grass area, whereas this would be the gravel parking. So in total, that gives us 32 spaces. Plus we always had the 6 spaces that were here, the 3 that were going to be carved into this island, and then the 3 parallel parking spaces there. Also, based on the discussions too, we added a handicap drop-off zone. So we'd propose a sign that would say just that. And then we would stripe this area on the pavement as just that drop-off area. And again, the barn's right here. There's additional pavement here too, so it's pretty convenient to the barn itself. That's it in a nutshell.
Anything else?
I would say that, during the discussions with conservation, Ben was very practical too. And one of the things that we talked about was the fact that we've got a gravel parking area here. We discussed stormwater management and whether we really needed the stormwater management or not. We all know that the flow path associated with this farm travels across about 1,300 linear feet of farm field before it actually gets close to the abutting property next to Route 30. So when you compare the existing conditions to proposed conditions, I've got it all put together in a stormwater report. There's this gravel parking area has no impact on peak flow or volume when we're looking at such a long flow path. As far as sediment goes, we know that the existing gravel parking area doesn't create any type of a sediment load. We also know that the larger parking lot for the trailhead parking is that's also gravel, and that doesn't create any type of a sediment load, or it's not really a lot of rill erosion or gully erosion associated with those. Because the farm tries to maintain those anyways if they need to. So all of this, if there was a case where there would be some kind of gravel, again, the farm maintains that. They could top dress the gravel parking area. They could clean it up, and it really wouldn't be impacting anything downstream. So as far as this new revised plan, we're not showing any type of stormwater management features with this. And then the last thing was I know this was always a good topic to discuss, was the area of disturbance. And by consolidating what we've consolidated, I think we're down to 37,000, 37,770 square feet. So we're still under the acre. So I removed that from the waiver request list altogether. Let's see, what else was there? I think that was about it. I feel like I'm forgetting something. But,
Bob, do you want to just comment on the lighting?
Can you hear me now? That's what we're waiting on right now is the photometrics. We saw that there was a mistake in the photometrics, but we're basically proposing the same fixtures that we had presented earlier in an earlier public hearing. And we're looking at 4 lights down below for the, or I should say, surrounding the parking lot on a 12-foot pole, and then the Ballard lighting along the walkway in. I will say that, we've been back and forth on this. We've gotten some very good input, I think, from the board, as well as the Conservation Commission and the public. And I think this plan is much better for that. And we've tried to incorporate as many of the comments as we could in our revised plans.
Very good. Anything else? Any questions or comments from the board?
We
So
do
the
have an extension request on.
Right, so the plan is for the revised plans to be submitted for before our next meeting. We have a request from the proponent to continue the public hearing to November 16th and to extend the approval period to November 20th. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So we will entertain a motion first to extend the approval period to close of business on November 20th.
So moved.
Seconded.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Morris, yes.
Mills, yes.
Stein, yes.
Pearl, yes.
Houlihan, yes.
And then we'll take another motion to continue the public hearing to November 16th at 7:05 p.m.
So moved.
Seconded.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Morris, yes.
Mills, yes.
Stein, yes.
Pearl, yes.
Houlihan, yes.
Excellent progress. We're getting
Great.
closer.
Okay.
And we'll see you on the 16th. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is a continued public hearing, 60 Richards Road, Mooney Baseball Field Lights, major site plan approval. This is continued from October 19th, 2020. I'll ask I'll turn it over to the town planner, and Karina, would you then be turning it over to Tim?
Yes, Tim has his project team with him this evening, which includes Arthur Eddy from Traverse Landscape Architects. We have, who else is here, Tim? Is
Vincent Delorio,
Vincent Delorio, who's the electrical engineer,
and then Mike Barry should be in there.
and Mike Barry from Muskow Lighting. So the three of you?
Yep.
All right, excellent. And it looks like we have several attendees who may be here specifically for the rec lighting projects. So at the last planning board public hearing on October 19th, we were continued to this evening. At the last meeting, it was a relatively brief presentation just to orient the project to the participants who were here from the public. In general, Andrew Mills was absent. However, he has signed the Mullins form indicating that he reviewed the information and he's present with us for this meeting. We did receive a document from Traverse, a supplemental document that included a list of waivers that they're requesting, as well as some sample locations of Muskow lighting that Muskow provided through Traverse of other ball fields that use similar types of lighting that are proposed here. So in that note, I'll hand it over to Tim, if that's okay with you, Don.
Yes.
Okay.
Great. Good evening, everybody. So I'll just make I think a brief little recap, little statement, and then Mr. Morris, I'll turn it to you to how you want to proceed.
Thank you.
Tonight.
Thank you. Thank you, Tim. And welcome back.
Thank you.
Good to see you.
Good to see you, Andrew. Good to see you too.
Hey, Tim, how are you? Thanks.
Good.
My apologies for missing the last meeting.
That's okay. Don't even worry about it.
So,
So, all right. So I will just read from what's in front of me. So just bear with it. So good evening. For those watching at home who do not know, my name is Tim Davis, Recreation Director for the town of Southborough. I am joined tonight by Arthur Eddy from Traverse Landscape Architects and his team, Vincent Delorio and Mike Barry. And I would also like to recognize the presence of the Recreation Commission, who is joining tonight jointly for a joint meeting. As mentioned, tonight will be our continuance from the last planning board meeting from October 19th regarding the lighting project at Mooney Baseball, and then later on the Finn School Mooney Baseball Complex, and then later on the Neary School Richardson Tennis Courts, both lighting projects. Before we dive in, there's just a couple things I want to point out, and then again, I will turn it over. First is regarding the plans that we'll be reviewing tonight. After speaking with Karina and Sarah the other week from the planning department and their subsequent conversation with Mr. Morris, I have made the decision to delay production of updated plans for tonight's meeting. Based off of our last session, it was clear that there were still many questions to be asked stemming from both the Fuss and O'Neill report, but also the planning board as a body, as you all needed some time to digest and generate questions of your own stemming from that report. Due to this, it was my expectation that there would be additional revisions requested tonight that may be within or outside the Fuss and O'Neill report. And the decision not to produce additional physical plans was an effort solely to be financially conscious at this point in the project. It's our hope that after tonight, we'll have a full scope of revisions from you all so that on our next submittal, we will hopefully result in complete plans and approval from this board. And this is in recognition that we will have a third hearing, another continuance tonight. I know there's been a lot of chatter in the last few weeks, so I want to make it clear to the public that this decision was mine as the recreation director in town and the head of this project, as I believed it was in the best interest of this project and getting this project to the finish line. Next, to just talk about the Fuss and O'Neill report quickly. To date, all of the requests in both reports across both projects have been addressed by Art and his team, and appropriate updates were made on the back end, on our end, on his end, with the plans, and we're happy to speak to any that may be of concern tonight from you all. For the public's knowledge, while there was a significant, I think, number of notes across both reports that were expressed the last meeting. There was 107, I think, across both of them, to be specific. Many of what was requested was minor, and that of confirmation that we were in compliance of the site review. So it was a daunting task, but at the same time, like I mentioned, everything has been handled on our end. And then, as mentioned by Karina, some of the report requests we believe were outside the scope of the project or do not necessarily relate to this lighting project. So a request of waiver from 9 of the items between the two projects has been submitted to the board via the supplemental documents. Those were submitted last Monday, and for the public's knowledge, those are viewable online if you are looking to look them up. And also, as mentioned, accompanied is the request from Mr. Morris from Musco of comparable projects around the state. So Mike, thank you for getting that along quickly. Again, that is online as well in case the public would like to view. So with that, Don, I'll leave it to you. With the next step, we can address the waivers. We can do a quick overview. We can just dive into Q&A, whatever you'd like to do. So I yield my time and I'll leave it to you.
Thank you. And as you stated, the final decision on the plans was yours, but it was definitely we did huddle on it, and I certainly supported your decision. And we can see that things are continuing to move forward. I just want to say that the planning board does site plan all the time. We have site plans before us pretty much anytime. Most site plans and site plan, for those who care to look it up, you go to the town website, the front page. On the left, there's a box that you can click on. It says Town Code. So you click on that and you go to section 174-10. That's site plan. And it's not that long, but there's kind of broken down into two sections, minor site plan and major site plan. This is major site plan that the board is doing for this project and has done for many other projects, public and private. So again, if you look at that section, it lists those features, those things that are involved in site plan. Now, most site plans that we see, they don't involve variances from the ZBA, and even fewer involve the vote of town meeting. Although recently, the planning board did the site plan for the new public safety complex, and that was approved. We also did the Choate Field lights in recent years. We did the new Woodward School site plan, and we did the Trotter School site plan back in the 90s, all of which were approved, but involved a vote of town meeting. So in this case, I know, as Tim said, there's been a lot of discussion out there, and I feel, and I think I hope this is the feeling of others, which is that this project was vetted through the ZBA, 5-0 vote to grant the variance, and then it went to town meeting and was voted to be funded. So I believe the planning board's job during this site plan is to focus on those items in 174-10 and assure the townspeople it's possible, but highly unlikely at this point in this project, that something would come up that would be a showstopper. So we have to work our way through the site plan process, but there shouldn't be, at least in my opinion, any concern relative to the planning board, not honoring the vote of the townspeople at the 2017 town meeting. Now, if you look at 174-10 B2C, and if you do, you're more of a, zoning nerd than the planning board. But if you do, C says that the construction of the work as detailed on the site plan shall not deviate from the work shown on the approved site plan. So it also says that a sufficient level of detail is required to ensure the constructability of the project. So the plans that we're expected to approve should be the ones that can be used to actually build the project. The detailed plans, and it all has to match up. So that's what I recommend that the board do, is focus on getting the plans, as we do with other site plans, in a situation where we feel comfortable that the plan is the plan that can be built. So I'll ask the board, do we want to, the 50 items on the Fuss and O'Neill report, there are 50 comments. I think we've all gone through, and some of them are general. For example, number 16 states that the labeling of the poles and other things shall be consistent. And if you look at the plans, you'll see that a pole is labeled one thing on one sheet, and if you go to another sheet, it's labeled something else. And that is in more than one place in the plans. So the Fuss and O'Neill general comment about labeling shall be consistent doesn't get into the detail of page by page, label by label, that is needed in order to make the plans acceptable. And of course, the other notes are similar. Some are detailed, but most of them are general notes. So we hope that when you went through the September 3rd plan, that you've done a detailed scrub and made sure that these inconsistencies have been cleaned up. So is it the board's desire to go through these, or ask the proponent to go over them? I don't, there's so many, not sure if it's productive until we see the plans. Mr. Mills? How we should proceed with this?
I guess I would ask the electrical engineer in Moscow, Mike and Vincent, what they feel on the plans, or Tim, I don't know if Tim is coordinating all that from the overall plan piece, because it is very technical. But I agree, Mr. Chairman. I don't know if going through 50 line items at this point would be the best. I think maybe if the applicant or the proponent agrees that at the next meeting, hopefully most of those will be resolved for the next review.
Thank you. Mr. Stein, opinion?
No, that's fine. I agree with Mr. Mills. I would just defer to the proponent to update the plans, and we'll go through at the next meeting.
Thank you. Mrs. Luttrell?
Yeah, I'm in agreement with that plan.
Mrs. Houlihan?
So I just have one question. Like, I think it would just be helpful to go through the, not the Fuss and O'Neill, but maybe the request of waivers that they've gone through, and just kind of clarify. I think that would help me and put me in a better place when we do have the plans.
Okay, that's what unless I see Art, you're indicating that that's a good idea, so we'll do that. Why don't we do that right now, do the waiver? So call on you, Art.
Sure. And then I would also ask that there's one question that I have related to the comments that would help us move forward in understanding of what we need to provide for the next meeting. But I would be happy to go through the waivers. The waivers that we did request, which is in your original packet, was, well, why don't I go through the recent waivers? Because one of the things that we're looking at is the site plan per section 17410 B 2B15, major site plan submission shall include drainage, including detailed design data, pipe sizing, et cetera. Existing drainage locations are provided. However, detailed drainage information has not been provided. We're asking for a relief from this section, as we are not doing any grading and drainage on the site plan. We're not impacting any grading and drainage other than digging a trench and putting it back as it in. We do show the locations of the stormwater, but if we do have to request this for the entire site, we'd have to go beyond the limit of works, which is beyond what we would request for the site plan to be sufficient. So we were asking for a waiver from the detailed design, pipe sizing, et cetera.
Why don't we take that one on? I'm fine with that. Mr. Mills?
Yeah, I'm good with that.
Mr. Stein?
Yeah, agreed.
Mrs. Latrell?
Agreed.
And Mrs. Houlihan?
Agreed.
Okay, so that waiver, when we take the vote, oh, and by the way, as you know, as proponents, but public may not know, Planning Board has several options with site plan, one of which is to do nothing. We have 60 days to approve or to take action. That day, the 60th day is on
November
November
29th.
29th.
There you go.
So we're within that time frame. As you may have seen from the previous site plan hearing, the proponent has requested an extension of the approval period. So if the planning board does nothing, then the plan is constructively approved. And we try to avoid that at all costs, and it's highly unlikely that we'd ever get to that point. The planning board can approve the project based on the materials submitted, which is the plan, and any reports or other technical information, as is, or it can approve it with conditions, or the board can deny or disapprove the project and explain why. And it's usually because it's very rare. We approve virtually every site plan that's submitted, many with conditions, but we have denied a site plan in recent years, and it was because the information was incomplete and the proponent didn't want to provide any more info. So those are the options. And so when we get to the point of a vote, then the waiver that we just basically voted on, we didn't vote on it, but we will as part of one of the conditions that will be waived. What's next, Art?
The next, hold on one second. The next was relief from section 17410B2B17. Major site plan shall include topography at 2-foot contour intervals. Drainage for the entire site would be cumbersome and not impacted by this process. Again, there's no drainage or grading work as part of this project. It's requested that the site plan is sufficient. We do provide GIS contours that were taken from the GIS, the townwide GIS.
And what are those intervals?
I believe those are 5. Again, when we look at the plan itself, we don't really have any impact on grading and drainage on the site. So we're not actually grading and draining in any of those areas. And the areas that we are in are well within 1 foot of contours. We would additionally not have many contours shown in those areas.
Okay, I'm fine with that. It kind of makes sense with the contours relative to a baseball field. You would hope that the infield and the outfield would be relatively level. I remember when my son was playing, they played a game, I think it was in Hopedale or Millis, And you actually had to run uphill to get to the center field. So I'm all set with that. Mr. Mills,
Yeah, I'm very comfortable with it.
Mr. Stein,
Agreed.
Mrs. Latrell, Mrs. Houlihan.
Agreed.
Okay, good for that one, Art.
Okay. The one question I had under comment sec 8 per section 174.10c, and we did not provide this in writing, but it says a plan shall be prepared by a professional engineer, land surveyor, architect, or landscape architect registered to practice in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. Plans prepared by Musco Lighting do not include a professional registration engineer stamp. Please provide information required. I just want to note that if potentially we could provide a stamp signed plans, or not necessarily stamp, but signed plans by someone from the National Council of Qualifications for the Lighting Professions. They have qualifications which for what is called a LC credential, as opposed to a landscape architect, surveyor, civil engineer, or architect.
Have you, what you just said, submitted that to the town planner?
That will be part of our resubmission. We're going to provide the plan stamped and with that certificate as well.
Well, in advance, I'm not in favor of waiving that, so
Okay.
your proposal may be okay, but we're not familiar with that, at least I'm not. And so we need that ahead of time so that the town planner could look into the validity of that approach.
Okay.
Any agreement with that, Mr. Mills?
Yeah, I would agree with you on that, Mr. Chairman. And I think I have a question. We can get to it later, but it probably relates to that. So,
Mr. Stein,
That's fine.
Mrs. Latrell, and Mrs. Houlihan.
Agreed.
So the agreed, that's fine and all that. That means that we're not going to agree to the waiver. We're going to take a look at what you're proposing and discuss it later.
Yeah. And I think for waivers, that's all we had. I think we're prepared to answer all the other questions related to this. The one was the low impact development bylaw. And it says town to provide an answer to request for exemption since project meets all requirements. That was in the original packet that we had sent, a request to not have to apply for the low impact development. Again, the is a 1 acre threshold. We're less than 5,000 square feet on that threshold.
I think we already talked about that.
We did, but we never got is this approved or not?
As far as waiving the lid requirement?
That's correct. And the actual Fuss and O'Neill's actually says town to provide answer to request for exemption.
Karina, for some reason, I'm thinking we already voted to not require lid.
I think that per the bylaw, you're exempt because of your threshold is below the 1 acre. Therefore, it doesn't require a waiver. You're just exempt.
Okay. And that would apply to comment 12. I just want to make sure that that's clear, because Fuss and O'Neill's comments do indicate that the town has to make a answer to that requested exemption.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
comment number 12. And yeah, we've seen this before. If the project isn't required, doesn't meet the threshold, then you're exempt.
Okay. And those are the only requests that we had.
Mr. Mills, you had a question.
yeah. So first of all, like Karina said, I did listen to the meeting from the other week. And I appreciate the detail and everything that you went through. I had two questions. One, and they kind of like, I might wear my CPC hat a little bit on this because I was on the CPC when this got approved. And from a planning board perspective too, I'm just curious as well. So one was the lights you mentioned in the last meeting, that they come already fixed, adjusted and ready. You put it right in the ground as is, and there's no adjustment needed. Now, is there, Murphy's Law, right? Things do happen in shipping and whatnot, or if a bulb doesn't work or one of the candles isn't working, whatever. How does that get adjusted? Is there a warranty period where something like that still happens? I think you guys have done a great job with the photometrics in terms of reducing the lights seepage into the neighbors. But if that didn't actually work, how would we adjust that in for the couple of neighbors that are right across the street to make sure that we don't have to get a bucket truck over there on the town's dime? Who's going to do that?
Sure. Thank you for the question. We warranty it for 25 years, which means we maintain it. So if there's outages or adjustments that need to be made, that's on Musco's dime to do that. But each fixture is pre-packaged after it's aimed in the factory. It's packaged individually, and when they install it, they're just bolting it to the cross arm. So there isn't any changing of aiming degrees at that point. If a pole didn't get located in the exact spot that we had it shown on the drawings, which obviously would be an issue with you folks as well, then that can throw off light levels. But if everything's installed where it's designed to be, then there's little to no adjustments that need to be made. That being said, if there are fine tunes that need to be done, we would do that afterwards.
Did you say that's 20 years, Mike?
25.
25 years?
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep.
And so my other question has to do with my experience through, again, the CPC and the planning board with lights we did before. Mike, I don't know, were you involved with the Choate Field lights when we put those in?
Yes, I was.
So I'm not trying to dig up old wounds or anything, but I know there was a long delay with actually getting those lights working. How do we ensure that that doesn't happen again?
I think that delay was due to some other site issues with the power, not so much the delivery of the product, but
I'm not questioning the product or anything. I'm just saying overall, I want to make sure that when we're all done with this, again, this is kind of from the CPC hat, as well as from a planning board. And I'm not trying to, resolve whatever that was from before, but you know what I'm saying? We want to make sure that when this is done, it's done and there's no other loose ends that have to happen. So
I think at this point in the process that we've gone through, I can't think of a loose end that would be left out there, honestly.
Okay, and I'm asking you because I know Tim wasn't around when that happened, and since you lived through it, it'd be.
I think I've been here just about as long as some others on this board, but yeah, I mean, I don't envision any. I mean, our lead time is 6 weeks, but once all the documents are submitted and put it out to bid, there shouldn't be any delays on it.
Can I just interject, Andy, in that maybe Vincent can talk to this about the 3-phase or 2-phase power that's required in the street to power the lights. I think at Choate Field, one of the issues was that the power in the street wasn't there. There was no 3-phase, which is required. And you can tell me if I'm wrong, Vincent, but I think if you can confirm that.
So we've already confirmed there's 3-phase power on the street. The plan for Mooney is to utilize, come across the 3-phase power is on the far side of the road opposite the field. The plan is to come across with a 3-phase lateral, put pole mounted transformers on a pole and drop down and come into the electrical enclosure that'll sit next to Mike's controller for the lights. We know there's 3-phase power out there. We had early conversations with the utility company a while back that I could, kickstart again. But it was, I don't see a power delivery problem on this project unless something dramatic happens with the utility company crews.
Is that National Grid?
It is National Grid, yep.
Okay.
Okay. And again, I mean, the town has challenges with other projects, not lighting for fields or anything, but where, there's elevators that haven't worked for a long time because of power, not power the buildings and everything. So that's why, again, this is a very passionate project for the town, and we want to make sure that when we do get it going, it's done and can work immediately. So thank you. The last piece, and I know when I was looking at the plan before, maybe I missed it, but I remember there's a water easement. I think it's in the back of the field that goes towards the helicopter pad, right? I just want to confirm you guys aren't getting anywhere near that with the electrical conduits, correct?
No, we're not near that water easement across the back of the field. There's a large pipe. We did locate that on plans that we found through engineering, and that is located on the plan.
And where it gets wet back there as well, and
you're not in any of that direction. We'll be right off of right field and right off of left field, are the furthest reaches from that. So we're just outside that outfield fence.
Great. Thank you. Those are all my questions. And again, I appreciate your time.
I just had a couple of questions. I'm on sheet LD 1.03. And in the lower left, it says pole base identification. And it says precast base type. And it says 3B and 4B, which is the pole type. And then below that, it says pole identification, pole designation, A3, A4, B3, B4. So on the pole identification, are you guys following me? It says precast base weight. And there's a difference between the 3B and the 4B. And that's because one is holding up a 60-foot light and the other one's holding up a 70-foot light. Is that correct?
Yeah, the 70-foot pole has a additional fixture or two up there as well. So those two outfield poles are a little bit larger precast base than what the A poles are, which are the infield poles. Which is done structurally through structural engineering.
So these poles are identified on this sheet and others on the Traverse drawings as 3B, 4B, A3, A4. I'm sorry, A3, A4, B3, B4. But if you go to the Musco plans, which are dated 27 July of 2020, they're identified as A1, A2, B1, B2. They have a different identification on the same set of plans. I think Fuss and O'Neill addressed that with a general note, but it's that type of thing that raises concern about how much quality control, how much level of detail cross-checking went into this design and into these drawings. On the very first sheet, there's a typo. Sheet C says pole and foundation. As soon as you see that, it raises questions about detail. If you can't get a simple word properly spelled, are there other things in here that we have to dig into and make sure that they're covered. There's inconsistencies with the size of the conduit from note to note and sheet to sheet. So when you say you've addressed them, are those the type of things that you've identified?
Yeah, we've gone through and answered every response in their comments, and we'll provide written responses for all those comments and updated plans shown.
Well, some of them are general comments, so if your response is a general response, then it still lacks the, or I guess requires somebody to go through and make sure that every single one of these conflicts within the plan are taken care of or deleted.
Right, and we've done that based on these comments.
Okay.
Can I just speak one more thing, Art? So when you submit the new set of plans, you'll be checking the cover sheet. You follow what Don was saying, right? It says pole and foundation, things like that, and the page numbering has to match. And
Yep.
It just makes for a clearer set during construction.
We've gone through all that, and we've updated all that based on these comments.
And also the text that you submitted, the report with all the details, that also conflicts with the plan in some areas, especially with the pole identification. So it's not just the plans, it's the booklet that you provided. Anything else for tonight? We're moving forward. Yes, Mrs. Luttrell.
Just a couple of things. I know I mentioned that big elm tree in the stone wall. Still concerned about that. It looks like the limit of disturbance surrounds that tree. And so I'd like to hear how that tree is going to be preserved and how that stone wall is going to be preserved.
So we've had a discussion internally about rerouting through that bullpen and what that will take, and coming around that bullpen and out the batting cage, the backside of the batting cage out to that left pole, removing any disturbance from that area. There'll also be tree protection shown on that tree, even though we're out of the limit of work at that point. That limit of work will be eliminated.
All right, and just in conjunction with Mimi's question there, I was wondering if you, in conjunction with Vincent as well, was there a reason why you wouldn't run the trench, the conduit for the light poles, instead of running along the stone wall near that tree, why you wouldn't go around north of the bullpen and run it in the same conduit that is on the east
That's
side of the bullpen?
basically what we're proposing as we were looking at, was coming off that box through that bullpen like we're showing now to that light pole right off of first base, and then coming down through that limited disturbance out to that pole. So away from any of that stone wall, away from any of the tree, and then north.
Okay, so you'd be changing that on the upcoming plans. Okay, because I had someone else ask that too. Okay, is it easier to run under the bullpen than it is to run around the north of the bullpen?
If we run around north of the bullpen, we still have to come back down to that light on first base. So the run gets just as long, or if not longer.
So do they do directional drilling to go underneath the bullpen, or do they remove the fence?
It's not anything. We're going to repair it as we go. It's not anything permanent. The fence.
It's not a deep trench, right?
That's correct.
So you just go under the piece of the fence.
That's correct. We have to just remove the piece of fence when they're constructing it and then put it back when they're done.
Okay. Just for my own information. Sorry, Mimi. Okay.
No worries. The other thing is currently the spectator entrance goes along the sidewalk on Parkerville and then down the stairs. Will there be a more accessible entrance?
Right now, we're not currently touching any of that area where that walk comes in. We're not on disturbing. We would be in that stone dust path. We would repair that through that area as we go. So at this point, we weren't touching any through that. You're talking about south, below the kind of storage concession buildings that are there. Is that correct?
Yeah, so spectators are directed from the parking lot to go down the sidewalk on Parkerville and then down the stairs that are in that stone wall.
And why wouldn't they come from the parking lot and down the stone dust path that runs the backside of the dugouts?
That's a very good question. That's what I'm asking.
Yeah, I
Like
mean,
that's-
we're not I mean, we're going to obviously trench in there, but we're going to replace it so that remains as is. So there would be a stone dust path, which according to the state of Massachusetts, stone dust does meet the ADA requirements. So that they would, I mean, obviously they're going to disturb it. Once they disturb it, they'll repair it in place so it's back to its original condition so that it could be used as an ADA accessible path as is.
And does that little slope right at the beginning, does that meet, accessible grade limitations?
Art,
You know what
can
I'm talking
I
about?
jump in? That's okay. So Karina and Mimi, so I went out with Karen Galligan earlier last week, and we looked at those points of entry, specifically that stone dust pathway. As we know, there's a small barrier there regarding the curbing that is on that stone dust pathway. So it's our intent on the town side and DPW side to remove that curbing and be sure that that grading is appropriate, so that it's up to par with what we need. So that the point of access for ADA compliance will be there completely.
Thank you. And then the last thing, on the key on the plans, it shows a little dot for potential vernal pools. Is there a potential vernal pool? You're muted, Art.
Yeah, no, that's in the standard list of legends. There is not a potential vernal pool on the site.
That's it for me.
Scaring everyone.
Mrs. Houlihan.
Thanks. Just two follow-up questions. So I just wanted to make sure that the new light and the photometric plans coming in show 0 light trespass over the property. How are we making improvements that way?
Yes, we've made improvements. We're down to, I think, a decimal point 0.1 at the edge of the road. So that's about, that's prior to getting on to the adjacent property. And the adjacent property, it reads 0.
So it's still on the public way.
Yep.
Okay. And then my last question was just specific to Fusses O'Neill's comment number 50, which is making sure you had a Board of Selectmen utility pole hearing. I just didn't know the progress. I didn't see an update in our Dropbox, so I didn't know if anything came across.
Well, I
No.
can speak to that a little bit too, just so you know. I did ask the board, I asked Mark Purple, town administrator, on that, and the feedback was that National Grid requests a pole hearing at the time when they go to have that pole installed, before they have it installed. And you can tell me if that's different from your understanding, Vincent or Art.
That's congruent with what we understand that as part of the construction process, when they go to request from National Grid, that pole hearing will be part of that discussion. As
Yeah,
part of the permitting process.
utility typically,
Process.
that's right. That's what I got too. And I know that in the past, in the conditions, sometimes we put in, proponent shall apply, a utility pole hearing or a pole hearing will be required, just so that it's not forgotten. But usually the utility does that.
I mean, I'm just stating it, just as Andrew brought up Choate Field. I know the lighting was an issue, so I don't know, just to make sure.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Anything else? Anyone else?
We
We do
did,
have a hand. Oh, sorry.
go ahead, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, we do have a hand raised in the audience.
Go
Just, Don, before you go to that, I just wanted to make sure that there was an email from Bonnie Faniff, 179 Middle Road, that was mentioned at the last public hearing, which had several questions of varying types. And that was provided to the applicant team, as well as the planning board for review. So I didn't know if you wanted me to bring up those questions or if anyone had questions on those.
Well, you forwarded that to Tim. Is that correct?
Correct.
Tim, status?
I'll defer to Art. I know Art, there was a soil boring question potentially you wanted to address.
Yeah, there was a question requesting soil borings. Again, that doesn't fall under a piece of this application. We don't actually have soil borings, but we did do soil identification and discuss with Mike and his team on the foundation plans for worst case scenarios. There was a question about trenching permits and building permits. Obviously, we're not at that point until we get past the planning hearing. We wouldn't be able to apply for trenching permits until we have a contractor on board to move forward with the rest of the project.
The hand raised?
Yep. You're all set.
Hi, this is Nick Carmelek from 7 Vale Terrace in Southborough. I just wanted to continue to advocate for the completion of this project. As was talked about at the last meeting, this project is about safety, and it does tremendously improve safety for the kids that are playing on these fields. It benefits the town, the kids in town that continue to stay active and be active in a team environment. And I just continue to urge the planning board to continue to move this project forward. And if we can address some of the comments from the Fuss and O'Neill report now, we've got time. So I would just urge continued discussion on the project. Thank you.
Are you suggesting that we have a continued discussion right now?
Yes, if possible, to continue the discussion.
We have quite an agenda ahead of us, including another public hearing for the Neri lights. We're about 15 minutes past what I would hope to manage this time slot. I think we'll grant your request, but it won't be tonight. It will be hopefully if we receive a motion to continue the public hearing to November 16th, we will be all over it on November 16th. But thank you for your comment. Are there any other raised hands?
Yes. Kristen?
Yep. Hi, it's Kristen Lavault, 12 Southwood Drive, also a member of the Recreation Commission. I just had 2 quick points. One on the light spillage that Ms. Houlihan asked about a few minutes ago. I just want to make sure I clarify my understanding, but also for the public, that decimal light spillage is onto a public way, meaning the sidewalk, perhaps the street that's already lit by street lights, correct? I guess that's a question, Art, you, right? I just think that's an important point. The words light spillage can tend to get people concerned, but in this point, it's quite minimized and it's already on a lit street. So I think they've done a really good job there minimizing that. The second point is, and excuse me because I haven't totally caught up with Tim on this and Jen from the Rec Commission, but can I just be clear on next steps? Because I am appreciative that we continue to ask folks to join and listen. Folks are being very generous. Time, as you are, but what's the sequence of events here? Because I also understand it's really expensive to print plans. So how does it work? Like, do we have all the questions that are needed that we can answer prior to that final printing of the plan? Or are you waiting for another version printed, at which point more questions will come back?
Tim?
So I think I stated in the beginning, it's our anticipation that we'll take the lot of concerns and questions that were brought up tonight. We will add them on to our response, our physical responses on our plans.
I'm sorry, did I lose? Can anyone hear me? I can't hear you.
We can hear you.
All right, I'll restart, Kristen. So it's our intention, our hope that tonight, as I stated earlier, that we'll receive the host of questions from you all tonight and your concerns, and we will add those into the Fuss and O'Neill comments, which we are making the adjustments, physically on the plans, so that come the next meeting, it's our hope that A to Z was addressed. We go through it with a fine-tooth comb before it goes to you, and in hopes that we can approve it from that point. So it's our hope the next meeting will be in really good shape.
Any other questions or comments?
Yep, we have one more hand raised. David?
Hi, David Fialco, 10 Lyman Street. I just want to follow up on Nick's point, and then I guess it'll be a follow-up to Tim, which was, I think Tim started off this meeting by saying that he was agreeing to continue this out and do another meeting so that he could get the comments from this board tonight. And then what I thought I heard the chair say was that he wasn't going to give him comments until he got the newest set of plans. And so our concern, and we haven't been shy about sharing that, is time. And it's also money, because this has become a incredibly expensive project. And so to the extent that this board can help Tim make sure that he doesn't have to print these expensive plans twice, I just wanted to share Nick's comments and follow up with Tim and make sure that he's got the information that he needs so that we don't see further delay. So to the extent that there are comments, I hope that we're not holding them back for the future. And to the extent that we've got them all, great. I hope Tim has what he needs. So I guess that's to you, Chairperson, and to Tim as well.
Well, the planning board, final step, I hope, would be for the planning board to vote to approve this project. We don't vote on any project, site plan project, without an acceptable set of plans. And as Tim indicated at the beginning, there's another set of plans that are being prepared and will be submitted. The board will take a look at it. The public will take a look at it. If they're all cleaned up, then we're really close to developing a motion to approve. We also need our consultant to agree with the responses and on the technical side.
I guess I'll just echo that, Don. That's our anticipated route of getting this to where we need to be. So addressing all the Fuss and O'Neill comments, or hopefully addressing all the questions from you based on those. Unless you provide any other direction, that's our intent come the next meeting, that we should be in good shape.
Yeah, we've heard that you've addressed the comments so far, and we'll submit a revised set of plans. We'll take a look at it. Our consultant will look at it. And if there's no more questions or comments or conflicts or omissions, and would be a lot closer to the board being ready to take a vote. Certainly don't want to give anyone the impression that we're promising to vote at the next meeting. We'll vote on the plan when the plan is ready to be voted on. It's got to be right. Anything else? Anyone else? So we need to continue the public hearing. So we'll take a motion to continue the public hearing for the Mooney baseball field lights to November 16th at 7:10.
So moved.
Seconded.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor. Morris, yes.
Mills, yes.
Stein, yes.
Well, yes.
Houlihan, yes.
Very good. Thank you. And we'll see you on the 16th. Thanks very much. The next item on the agenda is the Neri Lights public hearing. I am in a butter. I have to recuse myself. So Sarah's going to take me off the panel and I will return at the end of that hearing to finish up with the rest of our agenda. Mr. Mills, let the record show that you are now the chair.
Thank you.
Using myself as well, as I also am a butter.
Okay, there, okay, there we go. Perfect. So, Chris, can you read, give us an update where we're at? I know you opened the public hearing the last time. I know that I saw the presentation. We're talking, very similar with the lights. I think the poles are a little bit less. This light spillage is, maintained all on the courts. So that, or the lighting is all on the courts and there's no butter issues per se, that we have the light spillage. Was there anything coming up?
Would you like, I'll give you a quick update so that
Yep.
everyone's in the know. So just to reiterate, you did provide a Mullins form that signed that you reviewed the information prior to this for your absence at the last meeting. At the last, we received a supplemental information from Travers and through Tim Davis for a waiver request letter and also some examples of Musco lighting locations that are similar to the lights that are being proposed for these projects. We also received 2 letters from the same resident, Mr. Lapine, who had some concerns of the lighting and had some questions and suggestions. If you would like me to read that, I can do that. And I just want to point out that we also received, albeit this was from the last public hearing, we received many letters of support for the Mooney lighting projects. I want to say 40 plus emails and letters from various residents and abutters, and my apologies to the attendees during the last public hearing for the Mooney lights that I didn't bring that up, but we did. We received a tremendous response. For the Neri tennis courts, we did not receive as many specifically pointing to the Neri lights, and we did receive one residence, like I said, concerns with that, and that's Mr. Lapine. I don't have his address right here. So that being said, if Tim would like to reiterate for this public hearing, the reason that we're in, we don't have revised plans at this point is because it was for a very valid purpose and reason moving forward. So.
Yep.
Go ahead, Tim, I guess.
Yeah, just to, reiterate briefly, this is same reasoning as the Mooney Light Plan. We did receive the Fuss O'Neill report. We worked on, Art and his team worked on that diligently and addressed those on our end, and to put forth when we do submit a new plan addressing all those concerns. It was our hope that we would come here then tonight to receive any other concerns from this board, questions from this board that we can address tonight, so that come the next meeting, we can submit plans that are satisfactory and hope for that vote of approval for this project as well. And then there is another letter of relief requests for 7 items regarding this project. So we would obviously like some time to go over that so we can get some agreement on those requests.
That's correct. Andy, you have a waiver request letter that was provided by Travers dated October 26, 2020, and in it are 7 waiver requests. If you'd like, we could go through those unless,
Yeah, no, we'll definitely go through those. I think first I wanted to just touch upon, I don't know if anyone else, Mimi or Jesse, if you guys had additional questions. I had a couple that I wanted to ask first, or, after you guys go through it. So I think we'll follow the standard format, and then at the end, we'll go through those 7 waiver requests. So Jesse, any other additional questions?
No, just want to make sure the proponent has the Fuss and O'Neill comments and along the same lines as the Mooney project, that we're going to just revise the plans and address all those points.
I see Tim's head
Yes.
nodding.
Yeah.
Mimi?
A question on the controls that can be turned on for 30-minute intervals. And then will you not be able to turn them on after 9 o'clock? Is that how it works? If you tried to turn on the button, it wouldn't turn on, or how does that work?
Yeah, I'll defer to Mike for a more in-depth, I guess, explanation of that system, if you don't mind, Mike.
Not at all. But yes, the control system, Tim would set the parameters in terms of what time those lights can turn on and what time they need to be off. So whatever curfew is for the courts. And the push button would allow users to show up, push the button, play tennis, and then they would automatically shut off. If somebody showed up past that curfew time and they pushed the button, they wouldn't turn on because the control system is set. So it would tell it that that is not allowed time to turn the lights on.
What time can the lights be turned on?
That would be depending on what Tim sets. Typically it's at sunset or thereabouts. But that'll adjust with daylight savings time automatically as well. So if he put sunset every day, that time would change depending on obviously the season and where we are.
So they can't be turned on before sunrise.
If
Someone
he
decides to play tennis at 4 a.m.
Correct.
can't be.
It follows that same kind of protocol. If somebody showed up past 9 o'clock, that carries through until the next time when they're allowed to be turned on. So it creates that window of opportunity for the lights to be turned on that Tim would set those parameters.
Okay. So is it sunset, Tim?
Yeah, which is similar like we have down at Show right now. So it's automated through Musco's system. So we do set it for sunset, which automatically creates the time to go on. So that would be the plan, just for safety's sake.
so is that like, Tim, is that like a smart controller, Mike? Is that, it automatically adjusts itself based on the, some kind of software or motherboard?
It has a cellular communication built into it. So it has a computer built in that adjusts for the not the world clock. I'm drawing a blank on what the astronomical clock. So it's going to adjust according to where we are in the season and sunset.
And if for any reason we want to turn them off during a night, or we can override that and control it from the office as we do at the show lights. So we still retain full control of that.
New plans, will there be screening planted on the north side as the variance conditions required?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, we've added that already.
On note 6 on the plans, LA 1.01, it mentions dewatering, but that note doesn't match the request for the conditions and the request for determination from the Conservation Commission. They say dewatering, if necessary, shall take place with approval of the conservation agent. That's not noted on the plan.
And that was noted in the comments. We already picked up on that.
Oh, okay. Okay, the other questions are, I think we're on the Fuss and O'Neill letter, so I will assume all of those have been answered.
Okay, thanks, Mimi. So my questions are going to sound very familiar. One, I guess it's Vincent. Is the phase 3 power or whatever that is needed for those lights? Are those on that pole? So, or we're going to bring in there, and we're not going to have.
Yeah, 3-phase power is available out on the road. Plan is similar to the baseball field. We have a longer run. So again, overhead across Parkerville Road. We swing overhead, drop another pole, and then run underground, kind of down the sidewalk and over towards the tennis courts. So it's a longer run. But, the short answer is yes, 3-phase power is available.
Great, thank you. And then Mike, you ready for this one? I assume it's the same 25-year warranty Mesco is going to do for this one as well. So if any adjustments or anything, is that right?
Correct. Yep, same exact thing.
And I don't think there's any water easement or anything through there. Was that right? No plans. So I think I'm good on that one. Those are my questions. So do you, Karina?
Andy, I have a quick question.
Yeah.
All right, I just want to get some clarification. The utility pole that's proposed down at the intersection of the driveway in Parkerville, that's
Yep.
on the corner abutting the property owner there. Is there some understanding or clarification as to the ability to put that pole there? Is it town right away? Is there an easement in the deed for that property that allows that? Is there, how is that handled? Do you need permission from the property owner?
Yeah, I'm sure. Well, and again, my drawing's diagrammatic.
Yeah, if you look at the site plan.
You have to cite that a little bit better.
Karina, the discussion we had was moving that pole onto the town property in that corner. But understand at the end of the day, National Grid is going to tell us generally where that pole is to be located, whether it's in their right way. But we will locate that on the town property.
Oh, so there is town right away in that corner beyond the back of the curb?
Yeah, there's already poles on that side of the street already coming up that road. So there is a town right away on the back of that. So you have a pole directly on that site, but we'll move that pole to be located on the property at that corner.
So just to be clear, there is possibility for that to happen. It's not that you have to request permission from the property owner. It won't be on their property. And
That's right.
there's a solution that is viable. Okay.
So Karina, do you want to read off those waivers, or I don't know, Art, if you want to go through them like you did last time, either way, and then.
Yeah, did you just want me to ask some of the concerns that the abutter had in the letter they provided?
Oh yeah, I did have that. Please.
Okay, so one was lights out by 9 p.m. any night was their concern. The next concern, number 2, was lighting must comply with yet to be passed lighting rules of the town, significantly reducing light pollution. I think that's related to the upcoming potential bylaw update for outdoor illumination. Number 3, a timer must be installed to control the lights that will automatically shut off at either 30 minutes and or at the specified end time for any light activation. See number 1 above, I think you talked about that a little bit here. As a nearby resident, I can hear people playing tennis at those courts, and my home is not adjacent. I can hear the balls bouncing and being stuck, as well as noisy conversations. There's also some concerns with speeding on the road and additional traffic. Allowing these courts to be used in the evening will likely increase traffic associated with and the noise associated in these late hours. So those are some of the concerns that were in Mr. Lepine's letter. I don't know if he's in the audience this evening, but I believe he was aware that the meeting was this evening if he had additional concerns.
Okay. So, Tim, I think the ones that are within your realm were able to address were already addressed, i.e. the turning off the lights, the timer, noise aspect. I don't know if we adjust for the bouncing of the balls for the, I guess, the writer example. Unless others feel more discussions needed, I think his main concerns that we can address are addressed, if you agree.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree. I think, as Mike said, the light's focused, so the spill will not be there. I don't believe there'll be that significant of a traffic increase, as we're not really changing the amount of usage that can be there. It's still only 3 courts. It just may be a little later at night, but and like you said, we can't do much about the noise on a quiet evening. So, but as mentioned, I think we did address, especially when it came to the clock and the limits we have at night of how late the lights can come on per the variance that we were issued.
Great. Thank you. So Karina, you want to go into the 7 waiver requests?
Sure. I think as you did in the last public hearing for Mooney,
Sure.
Why don't you go ahead and state what you want a waiver for and why?
Sure. So we were looking for relief from section 174-10B 2A that all ownership, zoning, use, and general location of structure and topography within 300 feet of the property lines of the site or adjacent contiguously owned within the site is required. The comment was it does not appear as all structures abutting property owners, zoning uses within 300 feet have been provided. The reason that we're asking for this request is, as you know, the overall site is 86 acres, includes the Trotter School, includes the Neary School. Our project is less than 1 acre and only in that corner. If we were to include this, we would have to include all the abutting properties for the entire 86 acres. We're asking that it be related to just the direct location related to the tennis courts.
I would be in favor of that. Jesse? Jesse's good. Mimi? You comfortable with that?
Yep.
Great. 1 down.
Relief from section 174-10B2B13. Major site plan submission shall include existing trees on the site which are a caliper of 6 inches or larger. It says in review of Google Street View, it appears there may be more trees with a caliper of 6 inches or larger. Again, we have an 86-acre site. We're suggesting that anything within 25 feet of the limit of work, which would cover any major canopies, would be included in that, and that we wouldn't identify every 6-inch caliber tree on the entire site.
I am very comfortable with that. Jesse? Thumbs up. Mimi? She's good with it? Great.
Relief from section 174-10B2B14. Major site plan submission shall include all wetlands. The wetlands in question in the comment are located well outside the limit of work, which are actually the wetlands beyond north of the tennis courts. Again, because of the 86 acres, we're asking for a waiver and providing that information other than the wetlands directly adjacent to the tennis courts.
I'm very comfortable with that. Jesse's giving the thumbs up and thumbs up from Mimi, so we're all good.
And then
I just want to point out on that one though, Art, just be sure that the erosion control that you're showing on the plans match what's in the request for the determination
Yep, we've already done that.
response. Okay, here. All right.
Relief from section 174-10B2, B15, major site plan submission shall include drainage, including detailed design, data, pipe sizing, etc. We do show the drainage that's located in directly adjacent to court, but obviously, again, looking at that similar to the Mooney, it was the same request here.
I'm good with that. Jesse and Mimi, both good. All right, go with that one.
And then relief from section 174-10B2, B17, major site planning shall include topography at 2-foot contour intervals. Similar to Mooney, we're asking for the same waiver. In this instance, we do carry 1-foot contours because of the D. Pietri project. We have all the way up to the tennis court, and then we pick up GIS from the tennis court north. So we're asking a waiver on obviously the rest of the site.
I'm comfortable. Jesse, Amy, all right, we're all good with that one.
And the last one we didn't provide in writing, but it's a question related to one of the comments, which is comment number 5, section 174-10B2B. All site features existing or proposed are required in review of FEMA mapping, downloading the FEMA website. The FEMA line on LA 1.01 does not appear to match the firm flood insurance rate map, Worcester County, Massachusetts panel 66 of 1075 dated July 4th, 2011. Our line work for that would be from July 14th, 2017. So it's actually newer information. I guess I'm not asking for a waiver of that. I would just like to point that out as a point of what we should be providing, because they're asking for the 2011 line, but we're showing the 17 line.
And that's Fussin O'Neill's asking that?
Fussin O'Neill's asking us to show, they're saying our line doesn't match the July 4th, 2011, and they are correct. It doesn't because we're using July 14th, 2017.
Karina,
Typically, yeah. Sorry, Andrew?
I was going to ask Karina if that's something you can work with Fussin O'Neill to correct.
Yeah, what will happen is, Art, when you provide your response comments to that and you explain what you used, Fussin O'Neill will typically, if it's logical and makes sense and factual, they'll say, okay, we understand and have no objection.
That's fine. I just want to make sure I don't have to provide that line based on this comment. But we'll follow through with that.
Okay, they must be following a certain standard of criteria for right now. But you can answer to that. And you have one more.
I have all the information listed out of exactly where it came from and all the regulations of what it is. So I'm comfortable with providing that.
Super.
That's all I had.
You have one more on the waiver there, number 7, erosion control.
Art, do we want to put number 12 on there with the lighting design has to be stamped like we did on Mooney? Just for public record that.
I think we'd probably fall in the same category with the last one. We'll look at your proposal for that piece and then, discuss it the next.
So that same comment will carry over for this go around, that number 12.
That's what I'm suggesting. I'm waiting to see Jesse and Mimi if they're on board with that.
So we're talking about comment number 12 from Fussin O'Neill.
That's correct. This is the same comment that we made on Mooney. Again, the plans, we were asking the National Council on Qualifications for the Lighting Professions certification over a civil landscape architecture survey or architect be utilized. And then in the last go around, it was preferred that we provide a standard plan.
So you're going to submit that criteria to the town planner for us to evaluate? Was that where we left that?
Yes.
Okay, fine.
And Mimi's giving the thumbs up, so we're good with that one too. Okay.
And there's just still number 7 there, right? Erosion control for any disturbances indicated on the plan. Is that just a general statement, Art?
Yes, that's correct. And then we'll update that as mentioned, even in the plans that it'll match the RDA.
Okay.
Okay.
Sarah, are there any hands, anyone from the public who's looking to?
No, our public attendance has dropped pretty significantly, and I don't see any hands raised at the moment.
All right. Tim,
I have
Art,
one more question, Mr. Chairman, if you don't mind.
Vice Chairman, Acting Chair.
Mr. Acting Chairman, if you don't mind.
Don's watching. I don't want him to think I'm trying to overtake him in a coup.
So do the lights either go on or off, whether you're using 1 court or 3 courts? Are they all on or all off?
Yeah, the way it's set up with 4 poles would be needed to light 1 court or 3 courts. So yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
Sarah, still no hands?
Still no hands.
Okay. So Tim, yeah, go ahead.
Just a point of clarification for moving forward, specifically for Fuss and O'Neill for this project, but it would obviously relate to the last as well. Karina, I'm just thinking to expedite this, as I know it takes a little while for these reviews, and hopes to have it back in time for our next hearing. For Fuss and O'Neill, is it PDF only, or do they need print as well?
PDF.
Okay, great, thank you. That's all I got.
Art, Mike, and Vincent, anything else? Otherwise, I think we're gonna look to extend the public hearing until November 16th at 7:20 PM.
Can we make that 7:15, Andrew?
Sure.
To match, we keep it going
Sure,
the
sure.
same time.
7:15 PM. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Yeah. And a second? I didn't hear you, Mimi.
Second.
Okay, all right. Thanks, everyone. Appreciate it. We'll see you on the.
We have to do a roll call
We have
vote.
to do a roll call vote.
All right. Jesse, Mills, yes.
Stein, yes.
Well, yes.
All right. Thanks again, everyone. And Tim, I will try to give you a call tomorrow. I know I need to touch base with you on some other things for CPC.
That's great. Yeah, I appreciate that.
Thanks.
All right, good to see everybody. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
You
Thanks,
got
Art, Mike, and Vincent.
Thank you.
Appreciate you being here.
So Sarah, can you just let Marnie back in and we'll hold Don in purgatory for a little while? No, I'm kidding. I will release the chairmanship back to our fearless leader. But I want to give him a good giggle.
And you can send me to participant status because I have to recuse myself for this.
Sure.
Or
Am I back?
You're back.
You're back.
Thank you.
Are you back?
My chairmanship back to you, Mr. Morris.
Let the record show that the acting chair has returned the chair to the chair. And thank you for correcting. Was it Mrs. Houlihan you corrected? No, Mrs. Luttrell.
Let's see, Don, if it's okay with you, may I depart the meeting?
Andrew, thank you for participating and, going above and beyond tonight. We appreciate it.
No problem, and thanks everyone for your well wishes. I appreciate it.
Right.
So, thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks, Andy.
Okay, next item on the agenda is discussion item, Stonebrook Village Landscaping Plan Amendment. We'll ask the town planner. And Sarah, are you going to put that on the screen? That plan?
There should be someone here who.
Yes, well, we're looking for Dan Ruiz. It's Capital Group Properties.
Oh, there we go. I see him right here.
Mm-hmm. So Dan Ruiz is with us from Capital Group Properties. He is representing as the permitting agent for them. This
Yes,
is
Dan. Hi,
Hello.
Dan.
There he is.
Welcome back.
Thank you.
Did you want to let Dan go, Karina, or did you want to start?
Just really quickly, I want to point out that back in February 24th of 2020, the planning board had a discussion, Stonebrook Village subdivision bond reductions. And at that meeting, it was noted that 40 arborvitaes were on the landscape plan and have not yet been planted. And Dan had explained that white pines were installed instead for a couple of reasons, and I'll let him explain that. So he's back today after the whole waiting of the pandemic and getting to this point to discuss why they made that change and looking for planning board's acceptance of that change for when they move on preparing final as-bills. And I believe you have provided a kind of a draft as-built.
Yeah, so we did provide an as-built, final as-built to date. Can I share the screen?
Yeah, you should be all set to share.
Okay. Let me just. Can everyone see this?
Yes.
All right. Well, this is the as-built, the current to date as-built. And as shown on this plan, there are 22 white pines that were installed along this border, which is lot 2 and unit 14 and 15 right here. So on the original approved plans, they showed, let me just.
How many white pines are those? Dan, how many white pines?
It's actually 24. So in the letter, it says 22, but it's actually 24. So along this border, it was originally approved as 40 arborvitaes. And what was installed was the 24 white pines. There was a discussion with the buyer for the lot 2 and for unit 15. And they discussed trying to find a different option other than arborvitaes for screening, just because they're not completely deer tolerant, and deers will tend to eat them. And I can show you a picture later on of what I mean. And we came to the decision that we would, they liked the white pines, so we installed 24 white pines that were 8 to 10 feet, as opposed to the 40 arborvitaes that were 6 to 8 feet. I have pictures right here that I can show. So this is the existing landscape barrier between unit 15, which is up here in this corner, and then this is lot 2 right here. As you can see, it provides just as much screening as the 40 arborvitaes. These will actually grow out wider and taller than the arborvitaes that were on the original landscape plan. Here's another view of it from unit 15. And then this is along the back portion of lot 2. There was the white pines that were installed back here, and there is the fencing there. And we kept the big trees here. We didn't want to cut them down, so we tried to keep them for screening too. So this picture right here is on another project that we have in Southborough that we've done. And this is the bottom half of all the arborvitaes on, the areas that the deers get to. So they eat them down to here, and then it just looks like this. And then you can see it right here too. So we wanted to see if this replacement was okay with the planning board.
Got it, Dan?
That's it.
Karina, do we have any, do we know of any objections?
I have not had any comments or objections to this request. I have a question. Do you know if the white pines are native?
I can get you that information. I don't have that in front of me. There was, we spoke about this early on. I forget, it was before the COVID had hit, and we had discussed what kind of pines there were. And I believe I did send information on the type of pine, but I would have to go back and find that for you.
Okay, I'm just looking real quick here. We currently have 18. Okay. All right. I think there's a hand raised too. So no, Don, I have not received any objections to this.
Okay. Is that Mrs. Luttrell with the hand raised?
It is.
Should I stop sharing the screen?
Yep, you're all set.
I had a question too, Mr. Chairman.
So who wants to go first? Is Mimi on there?
Yep, she's all set to talk.
Go ahead, Mimi.
Mimi Luttrell, 19 Oregon, speaking as an abutter to this project. I have two questions. We've heard many times that the green giant arborvitaes are deer tolerant, and that's why they've been allowed on projects in the past, and they're not native species. So I'm wondering if the arborvitaes that you showed were green giant or some other species.
So the one that was approved, or the one that was shown on the approved plan is actually, let me just find the name right here. It is the Degroot Spire arborvitae.
Which was the green giant, I'm pretty sure.
So the green giant was, it's also shown on here, but it's not, it does not, that's not in this area that we're discussing.
So did you install the green giants elsewhere?
I believe so, yes.
So why weren't they substituted here?
That I'm not 100% sure. It was, from what I was told, was there was a discussion with the buyer of Lot 2 and Unit 15, and they discussed wanting to have a substitute, and they liked the white pine.
Because the issue with the white pine is that they grow very tall and all the bottom branches fall off. So they're really skinny with all the screening is 80 feet up in the air. As all the other white pine, the other tall white pines, like the two that you showed on that lot are it's the trunk with no branches, and all the branches are 80 feet up in the air, which it's not very good screening.
Okay.
And the last thing I'd like to point out is per our site plan 174-10H, any change, reducing of landscaping or screening may be made only through review by the planning board following the same procedures as the original submittal.
Which in this instance would be modification to subdivision, because it's on Lot 2, and your major site plan was for Lot 3.
Correct.
And these are already installed.
Yes.
Was the rest of the landscaping installed as per the site plan? Like along Wells Lane, were all of those plantings put in?
Wells Lane. I'm not sure where that is.
That's the other east of the property.
Wells Lane, the east of the property. So you're talking about where the long common drive goes down to the last like 4 units?
Yes. Because your as-built shows like 10 trees there, but the site plan has very dense landscaping there.
Yeah. I will have to double check on that. That I was not looking at. I didn't really take pictures of what's out there. Looking at the plan, it doesn't look like all those trees were planted, but I'm not 100% sure. I'd have to go out there and double check on that. Because the only section that I was really looking at was between lot 2 and unit 15. That was what was brought to my attention. And that's what was discussed at the meeting where we requested the subdivision, the reduction of the bond, and 12,000, I believe, were held for the landscaping for this issue to figure out what was going on between lot 2 and 15. So I'm not 100% sure on what's going on down there.
I don't think the white pines provide adequate screening would be my last comment. Thank you.
Mr. Stein.
So Dan, the initial plan was 40 arborvitae.
Yeah.
But in lieu of that, you've planted 22 white pine. What happened to the other 18 trees you were supposed to plant?
So it was actually 24, but so
16, sorry.
Yeah, yep. They were not planted. They felt that the 24 that were there gave enough screening, and they didn't want to put them too close because then they're growing right on top of each other and they suffocate each other.
So, I see what your point. So the arborvitae can be planted more densely.
Correct, because they grow straight up as opposed to the white pine where they'll grow wider and they'll grow tall. So we placed them further apart to give them room to really grow.
So my concern is that, I have arborvitae on my own property and the deer don't eat them here. So I'm not clear on if it really isn't the same adequacy of screening. I'm not sure that I'm sorry, but I'm not sure that I accept that on the basis that the deer will eat them. And along the lines of what the abutter was just saying, the green giants could have been planted instead, which are deer tolerant. So I have some concerns about this. The number of trees. I understand the density, but I'm not 100% clear on reducing the number of trees by 16. It seems like a big loss in the number of plants, and I'm not 100% convinced that the level of screening is what was agreed upon on the original site plan. Thanks.
Anyone else? Yes, Mrs. Houlihan.
Thanks, Don. Thanks, Dan. I gotta say, I sort of agree with my colleague, Mr. Stein. I guess I'm a little concerned around them going forward and kind of planting without prior review from the planning board. So I'm just trying to understand process-wise. And so maybe this is to Karina and Don. In these situations, would it have been in Capital Group's best interest to come to the planning board prior to planting to provide, and was that opportunity given to them? I mean, I remember the February 24th meeting, and we kind of agreed that we needed to kind of seek an alternative solution.
If I can speak to that first, Don, I just want to say that I I think back in February when this was brought up, they were, during the bond review, they were already planted.
I
The,
don't know that. Okay.
yeah, the proponent has the opportunity to submit application or call ahead of time to find out what the requirements are before they make a change like that. And that's what I have to say.
At that meeting, that's when I found out about that.
Okay.
The difference here is that this seems to be an arrangement that was made between two private people, two neighbors, and not the developer. So that's a little bit different than what we usually see, which is, you know, the proponent will come in, developer will come in and ask for these revisions, and it's usually before they have a buyer, before the project is even complete. So I think this is a little bit different, but I'm wondering, I know, Dan, you said you had to go back and check, so we want you to go back and check in order to give us the whole picture. But I wonder if we go back to what Mr. Stein said, I mean, you've got 24 pine trees planted. That's a lot of work. That's a lot of trees. And I wonder if there's a way that we could leave the pine trees and install 16 of, what is it, the Green Giant? They would I guess be installed far more spread out. But they would tend to, I guess, fill in the gap or the gaps, or some of the gaps, when the pine trees grow taller and the lower limbs disappear. So I wonder if there's a way that that we could do that. I don't expect you to answer tonight because, again, trying to be sensitive to the neighbors. That's to me is kind of the difference here. That, yeah, it's your site plan. I mean, your landscape plan, but the neighbors have tuned in and seem to want this. So there's some sensitivity to that. So I guess I'll ask you to think about a combination of the trees that were originally proposed or that are installed properly elsewhere on the project, and blend them in with the pines. Any thoughts on that, Mimi or Jesse?
It sounds like a good solution to me.
I think it's just another point of clarity, but I understand it's the neighbor's contention, but who installed the trees? Did Capital Group Property install the trees?
Yes, we did.
Yeah, so I'm kind of not okay with that personally, Don. But I would say, I think to be able to kind of be able to plant the original number with the Green Giant seems like a reasonable thing to go back and review. But I do worry. I mean, I have white pines myself, and there's like, they were planted 20 years ago, and I can completely see through my entire neighbor's yard. They planted them not realizing, but they're very onerous and big. So I don't know if those neighbors truly understood that.
And if I could just add to what Marnie was just saying, I mean, I agree in principle that's a good solution, but that doesn't, in my opinion, alleviate the need for an updated landscape plan for our review and approval.
Are you referring to a official submission of a modification application?
Isn't that what the situation calls for?
It would. I would.
Well, the board also has the authority to waive some of these requirements. And, if this was, it's just my opinion, it seems to be a relatively small piece of the very large project. And a solution is being proposed. I mean, we've had similar revisions over the years with residential properties that were just handled with the way this is being proposed, which is to, adjust the as-built and consider it a minor change. I mean, the way Mrs. Latrell read it, it would seem like we would have to go through the public hearing process and all of that. And maybe we can resolve this satisfactorily between the neighbors, Capital Group, and I'm with you, Marnie, as far as them just going ahead and doing whatever they wanted, planting it, and then asking later to say it's okay. And it's not their first project; they know better. But unless we have pictures of Dan actually digging the holes out there, we'll have to take his word that he found out about it afterwards too.
Also, I think maybe the bylaw says let me see, it says here, any change increasing the size of any buildings or structure, changing the location of any building, parking, or access road by more than 10 feet, or reducing landscaping or screening may be made only through review by the planning board, same procedure. So if he wasn't reducing, if they supplied supplemental landscaping, then it may not trigger that as well.
Well, it sounds like it is a reduction in screening to me. It's 16 fewer trees.
I think what she's suggesting is that if we were to supplement the additional 16 and of the green giant or something of the similar to that, then it would be a minor change, correct? Because then we would be meeting the same amount of landscaping for those trees.
Yeah, I think so. I think we should keep an open mind on this one. I mean, do you want the board to act tonight?
No.
So we want you to go back and think about it, talk to the neighbors, whatever you have to do. But it is an open item with the planning board in that you are in non-compliance with your approved plan.
Okay.
And we appreciate you working to come in tonight and make an attempt to try to fix it one way or another.
Okay, so I will definitely go back and I will talk with the neighbors and I'll talk with Bill about the options we have and the best way to address this.
And let me know, and I can, as soon as you're ready, we can get you on the agenda again.
Okay.
I think the reason that the deer don't eat those plants on Jesse's property is because of his dog. Have you guys met his dog?
Yeah, I'd be amazed if Pepper could scare a deer off. I don't see that happening.
All set, Dan?
Yes, all set.
Okay. We'll hear from you soon. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Right.
Good night, guys.
Good night.
Yeah.
Next item on the agenda is a discussion item. We have Mrs. Latrell back. 10 Turnpike Road, All American Storage, Open Space Boundary Plan. Karina, I looked at that plan and I don't know, maybe I had a hard time following it.
Yeah, so I'm looking in the attendees list and we have John Christopher, the contractor who is representing Raj Malhotra for 10 Turnpike Road, which is All American Storage Facility. And just to quickly update you, so as part of the major site plan approval, there were conditions regarding the open space boundary. And as part of the building permit application process, the planning board has to sign off on the building permit application. And in doing so, we review the conditions that are required. And one of the conditions is that upon installation of the bounds and drill holes for the open space boundary, that a plan certified by a surveyor be submitted showing that those bounds were installed. And the second part of the condition is that if the boundary changes of the open space area, then they would need to come before the planning board to get acceptance of those changes. I'd like to just point out that the certified plan from the surveyor has been submitted, and upon reviewing that is when I discovered that the boundary lines were shifted just slightly. It's my understanding that the area square footage that's required as part of the site plan approval is the same for the open space, but the boundaries were stretched a little bit here and there because there was a discrepancy in the original property lines from when the project was permitted to the property lines that were described for construction and that are on this plan. So John Christopher's here, and he can speak to that. So what I asked them to do is to submit a sketch to me that showed the open space that was approved, the boundary, and which is shown in blue on the plan that you saw, and the open space that was actually installed with the bounds. And to give you an idea of how different it is. So, John, if you have anything you want to add to that.
Yeah, thank you. Hopefully you can hear me. Yeah, what we did is we hired a Precision Land Survey at Southborough to do our construction stakeout and to do this open space boundary. They've done a lot of surveys. I think they did the surveys for the other parcels that are abut us, and they were different from the original surveyor, which I believe was Applewood Survey. And they had some old information where they had found some bounds that are currently not there for whatever reason, other work that's been done around there. And they came up with a different property line than the Applewood Survey. So the property line we tried to show on the plan, there's one area that's highlighted in blue, which is, I believe, the Applewood Survey, and then the PLS Survey, Precision Land Survey, is the property or the easement area, I should say, that's highlighted, that's outlined in black. And up at the top corner of the site, there was just a little discrepancy in the boundary line. So what we did is we adjusted the bounds to make sure we got the 0.7 acres that was required and agreed to with the planning board. It was the more restrictive or more conservative approach. We took the, the smaller piece of property, we added the 0.7 acres, and we submitted that to the town. So I guess it happens that you have different boundaries that are off a little bit from different surveyors sometimes. We believe PLS had a little bit more information than Applewood had at the time, and that's where we came up with the discrepancy. So we're here now tonight to ask that we can adjust these bounds as per the plans we submitted by PLS and go forward with the project.
Thank you. What are we talking? Are we talking inches, feet, yards?
Probably like 3 or 4 feet is what we came up with.
That's the biggest difference?
Yes.
Yeah, it appears to be like if you're looking at the plan, the open space kind of wraps around the perimeter of the back of the property, about 30 feet wide on the east and west boundaries. And it's those boundaries that were expanded a little bit towards Route 9, because on the eastern side, a slim wedge of the property was removed from about 0 down to like 3 or 4 feet in the southeastern corner. So to make up for that slightly narrowing of the property on the eastern side, they had to expand the open space a few feet at either end of the wrapped around piece, if you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah, with the open space being up at the back, I guess it's what, the south part of the property, eastern and southern part of the property. It really has no effect to the project we're building. It's up by that cellular tower that's up there, and it's really, for lack of a better word, unusable land to us or anybody else. So it's,
It's that corner that was shortened. That was kind of, they didn't have as much property as they thought at that corner along the edge, which cut out some of the open space, which removed some of it. So they made up for it on the ends. I did diligently check this plan to make sure that it appeared to conform. They even made a few changes. I asked them to make reference to the open space deed and the lid, that was recorded in order to have reference to the open space condition and the open space restriction.
So are you recommending that the board go along with this?
I would, I don't, according to what I know and what I've seen and what they presented, it appears feasible and meets the intent of the condition.
Mr. Stein, how do you feel with it?
Well, first of all, I'm sorry, but I don't recall the first hearing on this project. Was I, and I'm sorry to ask a stupid question, but did I sign the original plan? Was I a participant?
Hold
in
on,
the
I'll
first
tell
public
you.
hearing?
You were absent for the major site plan approval.
Well,
And
I don't remember this at all, so I'm going to abstain.
let me just see if you were part of the lid. I can tell you. You were absent for the lower impact development special permit. You did not vote on either one.
So
Mr. Chairman, I intend to abstain.
that's refreshing, Jesse, that you didn't remember being there and you actually weren't, so.
It's
The day
quite
will-
reassuring, to tell you the truth.
The day may come when you don't remember being there, but you were. Mrs. Latrell, questions, comments?
Is it possible to bring up the plan and just walk me through it? Because I'm looking at it and I can't figure out.
I have, Sarah, do you want me to share it, my screen?
Sure. Yeah, if you'd like, if it's already on your screen. Thanks, Marnie.
Yep.
So I added the cloud notes there that show that the blue line equals planning board approved open space and that the black line equals the open space boundary that was installed.
Where's the blue line and the black line? Is that all the hatched area?
John, would you like to speak to that or do you want me to?
Well, yeah, the blue line in the back, I'm on my screen because I'm on my phone here,
Hold on.
which I just lost.
Okay, I'll just for sake of making things a little bit more expedient, as you zoom into the picture there, you see the blue hatching. Okay, that is the approved open space area. Okay, during permitting for this major site plan approval and for the lid. That was the area that was set aside for open space. Now, if you look along the right side, you see these two property lines and you see a thin wedge. And if you go to the bottom, you see how there's like a very thin triangle. Well, the one that's further right was the property line during permitting. Oops. And the one that's slightly a few feet moved inward, says 62.44, is what the second surveyor property line came up with. So where they had to modify, so they lost open space with that tiny blue, that wedge right there. So if you go to along the eastern side here and you see the blue line stops, but there's a dashed black line right above the blue line where it says concrete bound drill hole. There's a little square. So you see there's about a 5-foot blank area beyond. That is where they actually installed the open space boundary with some additional space to make up for some of the wedge that was lost in the bottom right corner. Likewise, on the other side of the plan, you can see right there that the black line there's a blank space. So the blue line is where it was approved and the black line that's dashed is where it was expanded to make up for the lost open space area from the mishap in the property line boundary.
Thank you.
And you can see that the callouts show open space of 21,920 square feet and 8,786 square feet, the same as what was permitted. The note is still on there from what was permitted, matching the same amount of area. So in essence, it's not a dramatic change to the boundary, but the condition did say any change to the boundary would require planning board approval.
Thank you, Karina. I'm good with that.
Yeah, that was super helpful.
You all set, Marnie?
Yes.
So we'll entertain a motion to accept the revision?
I can make the motion, but I'm going to abstain. So moved.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor, Morris, yes?
Stein abstention.
Latrell, yes.
Houlihan, yes.
You're all set, John.
John, can you hear us? I think he's on vacation in Turks and Caicos, if I'm not mistaken. That's why he's calling in from. So,
Pretty good.
all right, John, if you have any questions, you can call me tomorrow. I think he's having trouble.
I wish I were in Turks and Caicos.
Having trouble.
Can't hear you, John. I don't know what's going on. John, call me tomorrow and I'll.
How's that better?
Yeah, that's better.
I don't know how to explain this, but we just witnessed an armed robbery and on vacation.
Oh,
And I'm a little nervous, but I appreciate you guys. I didn't hear what you said. I'm hoping you guys approved it, and
we did.
Yes,
thank
it's
you very
approved.
much. And I'll get back to you tomorrow because I'm a little
Okay.
shaken up at the moment.
Good luck.
Thanks.
Maybe they think we like we're out
Bye.
there left, we were like part of it or something.
Okay, I don't want to be in Turks and Caicos anymore.
No.
Into that idea. Next item on the agenda.
Yeah, I was.
So, Karina, do we don't have to sign a new plan? Is that right?
No, I will accept the
As built?
let me figure that out to be sure and I'll.
Okay, and let us know if we have to sign something.
Okay.
All right.
Yes,
Is that it?
actually, I did review this. I'm sorry, it's coming back to me. I did ask them that if their approval, if their plan was accepted with the change like that, that they would supply an updated sheet C8 to the plan set for planning board endorsement. So yes,
Okay.
they'll be providing that. Sorry.
All right, and then we'll do the usual run around with the plan.
Yeah.
Okay. Next
Okay.
item on the agenda is a discussion item, EDC, Downtown Initiative Bylaw Status. Karina.
All right, this is Sarah's project.
Oh, Sarah, sorry.
Thank you. So as you know, the new district recommendations version 2 came out, and everybody should have received those. Mark Purple is looking to galvanize comments from this particular version by Friday, in hopes that folks might attend another joint meeting on the 10th with the Board of Selectmen. So I think initial feedback that I received from some SHOPC members were just in regards to the affordable housing component, just kind of stating that that is maybe not as strong as they would like to see it. I did think that it was interesting, there is a, kind of a definite increase in, coverage in terms of the lot, and increase in maximum building height at 40 feet in this particular proposal. And then with special permits granting up to 45 feet and 4 stories. So 40 feet and 3 stories is what's proposed. And then with special permit, 45 feet and 4 stories. So, those are the things that kind of stuck out to me immediately. But, it definitely does lend itself to kind of a holistic approach to rezoning this particular area, in the sense that it does touch on other parts of the bylaw that would be affected if a change were to actually take place in the business village district. Creating a new district would definitely impact other parts of the code. So, that is kind of highlighted here, which I think is helpful. I think the other thing that really, stuck out to me was this does make a definite effective definition of mixed use development, really talking about having, different uses in the same building, on the same property that are not necessarily approved as compatible uses the way that it is currently written in the bylaw. So that's pretty much my update.
Excellent, thank you.
Thanks.
Any questions or comments?
Yeah. Sorry.
Go ahead, Justin.
Along the lines of what Sarah was saying, I feel like we could do a little bit better on the affordable housing piece. I don't know that we're going to have a lot of mixed use buildings with 8 or more units. That seems pretty big. So I'm wondering if the threshold can be lower, maybe to like 4 units, and then have like one out of 4 or something like that, which I know is higher percentage wise, but I don't know. I'm just wondering, Sarah, is there any give on that component?
Yeah, I'm not sure, what EDC is willing to kind of change in here, to galvanize support behind this document. But I would agree with you. I think that, referencing an 8-unit structure in downtown is not really realistic in terms of what is potential for development down there. And I would agree that maybe a 1-in-4 ratio would be more appropriate, something that will actually have an affordability component. And I was going to say, I think if developers are concerned about the affordability, 80% AMI is still, very good rent for Southborough in terms of looking at the area median income. So, perhaps, not doing a real deep subsidy would, incentivize developers to at least subsidize 1 unit. Sorry, Mimi, go ahead.
Along those lines, the way the bylaw reads that multifamily housing is by special permit to the planning board up to 8 units. So I don't know how you would ever get more than 8 units to have affordability if you're only allowing 8 units. So that's a glitch in the bylaw. But I attended the EDC meeting and they voted to increase the floor area ratio to 0.40. So they want more density. And one of my concerns is that it seems to incentivize removing the buildings that are down there. Like there's a requirement for first floor ceiling height at 12 feet.
Yes.
I don't think any buildings have that. So if someone wanted to just put a second story to put apartments above their already existing building, they don't comply with the first floor. And a lot of those buildings down there are historic. So I don't think we should incentivize just raising them all and putting up a bunch of rectangular 4-story buildings. I don't think that meets the, village type of downtown that people have expressed that they're looking for.
Mrs. Houlihan?
Yeah, just more a process. So what was provided, Sarah, was Judy had a very specific comment form. Do you want us to fill out the comment form, or are you fine with email? How are we submitting our feedback?
If you want to just send it to me in an email, I can put it in the comment form. I think that she sent that out with the hopes that people would use it, but I don't mind aggregating it all together for everybody and then sending one big form over to Lori.
Got it.
Sarah, you might want to check on that. I know working with Judy for many years on the ZAC, if I remember right, she at least at that time, put importance on who made the comment.
Sure,
So
sure.
If all the planning board members' comments were blended or put on one sheet, she might not, for this purpose, she might not care, but if I remember right with the ZAC, occasionally she would ask who made that comment, and then get a feeling for that person's knowledge or, you know, I guess, level of interest in whatever the comment was. So,
An expectation.
yeah, just maybe check with her before.
Sure,
And she
sure.
might prefer the one, everybody, you know, you putting one together for all of us, but we'll see.
But what might help you, Sarah, is if the planning board members who are deciding to submit comments by Friday, just type them in or write them into that form even and email it or drop it off. To use that form, then if Judy wants to know who said it, you can say, you know, Dawn, 1, 2, 3 comments, Marnie, but all the planning comments would be kind of
Yeah.
together.
Yeah, I can put them together and still keep, retain who, you know, the comment originated from.
But the key is we need some comments if you have them by Friday, actually by Thursday, so that Sarah can
that would be great.
Put them together. And then I think, did you mention that the Board of Selectmen were thinking about another meeting for this topic at their meeting? Was it the 11th? Was it the 10th or the 11th?
The 10th. My understanding is it's the 10th.
A Monday.
The
Okay.
10th is a Tuesday.
Oh, it is? 10th?
Yeah.
Oh, because Veterans Day is the 11th.
Is the 11th.
That's right. I thought it was the 12th. Okay.
Yeah.
So Veterans Day is a holiday, so Board of Selectmen will be meeting the night before Veterans Day.
So I guess that's another question. Do we think that we'll have a quorum that night? Are folks planning on attending or able to attend? Just wondering if I should post a meeting for.
I think you should. I
Okay.
mean,
I can do
with the new quarantine, the new COVID stuff that came out from the governor today, not too many of us are going to be going anyplace. Right, Mrs. Luttrell?
I'm off of quarantine on the 10th. Are you kidding me?
Oh, you're going to go wild. Okay.
But I'm available. And you'll get my comments by
Sure. Thank you.
Thursday or Wednesday.
Thank you.
Yep. Go ahead and post it if that's what
Sure.
if that's what the selectmen or the town administrator want. If they think that's what we want. You can post it and always just
Yeah.
cancel it. Yep.
Great.
Anything else on that one? Next item on the agenda is a discussion item, public shade tree removal policy. Karina.
Well, that is on the horizon for a Board of Selectmen meeting. Sam Stivers is going to take the draft policy back to Board of Selectmen. The working group had a meeting, and I think we talked about this last time, where there was still some conflict with the working group, whether to have a consolidated public hearing with the tree warden and planning board or independent meetings, public hearings. So Dawn and I, if you recall, we were going to draft a letter to the Board of Selectmen with the points of why the planning board is in consensus for supporting consolidated public hearings with the tree warden. So that's on the to-do list. I spoke with Mark Purple. I gave him a heads up in an email to let him know that that's the
I saw
stance.
that. Yep.
Okay. And he said, thank you. He goes, but we won't make it on this meeting coming up, but maybe the next 1 or 2 meetings at Board of Selectmen after the next one. So they've been a little bit busy. So we're going to work
Also
on that.
Also that we wanted all hearings on scenic roads to come before the planning board, not just for road maintenance and widening.
Right, all tree removals and that the meetings would the public hearings would be consolidated. Yeah, and you know, there was feedback whether there was some comment as to whether the Board of Selectmen would go along with, you know, even having a policy that changes that, that makes it more strict than the Mass General Law. Because right now, Mass General Law says only trees on scenic roads that are removed due to roadway construction or impacts for drainage, town would come before the planning board. So they would have to accept that add-on feature, like Mimi just said, as well. So we'll draft that letter and with Dawn's guidance, and then we'll have that ready to show everybody and then submit it to Mark Purple.
Any more questions or comments on this one? Okay, next item on the agenda is the other business properly before the board, the planners report.
Okay, quickly, I prepared a draft budget for fiscal year 22 for the planning department. Dawn reviewed it with me and we looked at it. We made a couple of minor adjustments. Basically, there's a 2.5% increase for salaries that is stipulated for fiscal year 22. And then all the other line items were pretty much the same except for employee training seminars. We added approximately $400 to that in order to provide some preliminary research for technology things that might be impacting planning board operations and processes going forward. There's a breakdown and it's posted on the planners, it's posted on the Dropbox if you're interested in taking a look there. But it has been submitted with a 2.1% increase, which is primarily due to just the increase in salaries that's allowed to be calculated in. So that's pretty good. It's pretty level funded other than that additional $400 for training purposes.
Just a quick question, Karina. Oh, sorry. It's just on, so the lighting bylaw and kind of meeting the warrant, have we thought, I know we have contracted kind of consulting services. But I feel like we might still need Destin. Does that include some Destin time?
Yeah, he's still on the books for, well, he's still available to provide some support. There's a little bit of time left in there. And then there is potentially some minor areas that we can adjust if a training isn't held that Sarah and I anticipated. There may be some funding available there. So I think we can manage the budget to meet that kind of a not minor demand, but it's a smaller task.
Really, thank you, appreciate it.
Dawn, if you're in agreement with that.
Oh yeah, I mean, that's the way we, you put the budget together. We reviewed it, made a few adjustments. And I know that you let Brian Valentine take a look at it. Got some preliminary feedback, which was positive. So I think we're in really good shape, and I'm really very pleased and proud of our town planner managing the planning department and the finances, able to have us pretty much in full operation, getting things done. Always can do more, but with the budget constraints, we we do what we can. And I think each year it gets better and better. The budget is very realistic, and each year we execute the budget down to very, very small amount without overspending. Very pleased with the way that it's being managed.
Well, thank you. And we also have new software called ClearGov that we use to import. So this year we kind of did it the traditional method, and then I imported it into the software. So next year, and then you do your attachments so they understand how you came up with the salary adjustments. So that'll be a good program. It's easy to see things, how they change, and where you're spending and where you're saving and all that. So, and on that same note, I sent out an email that everybody knew that our IT director has given his notice. He's taken a position closer to his house. So the Board of Selectmen, I believe, and I see Sam Stivers in attendees, he can correct me if I'm wrong, are on the search for a new IT director. Very important role, especially in these times. So, so that's that. I did receive some information about an Eagle Scout project that's in front of the Conservation Commission right now. There was an abutter who had some concerns with the project and was not for it. And if you have any questions on that specifically, it is in front of the Conservation Commission. not really under planning board purview. But I can answer questions if you give me a call. 0 Furman Ave, which is the U-Haul for storage facility. The assessors just assigned an address of 15 Pleasant Street connected to it in Southborough as well, so that there wouldn't be confusion. It was previously, it's a project that straddles Southborough and Framingham, and in Framingham it was 15 Pleasant Street connector. In South it was 0 Furman. They decided to call it 15 Pleasant Street connector in Southborough as well now. So just to let you know. And the fire department had sent out a community risk assessment and standard of cover document that I forwarded to everyone to take a look at. It's interesting. It has different aspects of information from the fire department. So that was just for your information. He sent that to all departments. So just to make sure you got that. And that's all I have this evening.
Any questions or comments? Very good. Next item is the approval of the meeting minutes, October 6th and October 19th.
Mr.
Is that
Chairman,
right?
Mr.
Go ahead.
Chairman, I'll make the motion that the planning board approve the meeting minutes from Tuesday, October 6th, 2020 for discussion.
Yes.
Mimi.
This is the part of
I
the,
thought I was waiting for Mimi to second it.
Second, I did.
Oh, we
Sorry,
didn't
I
hear
didn't
you. Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? Mr. Stein?
So on line 8, it lists the members of SHOPSI as members present. I would just qualify or request that line 8, reference that members present is referring to the SHOPSI members that were present, not the planning board members. And ironically, I was absent, so I intend to abstain from the vote.
Any other questions?
Wait, I just want to be clear. So this is planning board meeting minutes. Hold on, I just want to make sure we're doing that right. Also present. Oh, okay. Yeah, I see. Sorry.
Any more questions or comments? All in favor, Morris, yes?
Stein, abstain.
Pearl, yes.
Houlihan, yes.
Very good. And now we have the October 19th.
Mr.
meeting
Chairman,
minutes.
I'll make the motion that the planning board approve the meeting minutes from Monday, October 19th of 2020.
I read your lips.
Second.
Very good. Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, Morris, yes?
Stein, yes.
Latrell, yes.
Houlihan, yes.
Very good. Next item on the agenda is our next meeting is November 16th, subject to change. I think that's it for tonight.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, Morris, yes?
Stein, yes.
Pearl, yes.
Houlihan, yes.
We're adjourned. Excellent. Thank you for all your hard work.